Doubt is often better than overconfidence, for it leads to inquiry, and inquiry leads to invention. Anyone can understand the significance of research from the above quote, right? See, research is the outcome of inquiry. So for research, inquiry is the first thing, right? So whenever the people are inquisitive for any particular getting knowledge about anything, that is the point of that is the birth of the research, we can say. Okay, so all progress is born of inquiry. Doubt is often better than overconfidence, for it leads to inquiry, and inquiry leads to invention. This is the quote of from the famous person Hudson Maxim. Now, humanity gained a lot due to research, and many of the comforts we have would not have been realized without research. Now, increased amounts of research make progress possible for humanity. Research inculcates scientific and inductive thinking, and it promotes the development of logical habits of thinking and organization. Now, coming to the point that what is research? Now, dear students, dear participants, as we start study of any subject from the basic entity, we start study of geometry from point and line. We start study of algebra from the number system. We start study of any programming language from its alphabet, character set. So like that, we are going to start the discussion of research methodology from the basic concept, that is research, right? So what is research? What do you mean by research? Okay, research in very simple term, it is a search for knowledge. Search for knowledge. Okay, so whenever we are searching for knowledge, that is a research. Okay, it is also a scientific and systematic search. Okay, it's a scientific and systematic search for significant information on a specific topic. A careful investigation through search for new facts in any branch of knowledge or voyage of discovery, and so on. Now, when the unknown confronts us, our inherited instinct of inquisitiveness means curiosity, makes us probe to attain the full understanding of the unknown. The method we employ to probe for getting the knowledge of unknown can be called research. Is that clear? So whenever we are very much inquisitive or very much curious to know about the thing which we do not know, so for understanding the unknown things, whenever we are having the inquisitiveness or curiosity about getting the knowledge of any unknown thing, that is the research. That is also called as a research. Now, what is the definition of research? What exactly research means? Research is the process of gathering information about some subject, analyze them using scientific method with the intention of increase the stock of knowledge, right? So what research is? Research is the process of gathering information about some subject. Okay, it may be a subject of computer engineering, it may be a subject from electronics engineering, it may be a subject from mechanical engineering, or it is a subject, any subject from the computer engineering like AI or machine learning or networking, whatever it may be. So research is the process of gathering information about some subject, then analyze them using scientific method. First of all, it's a gathering information. In the research, first step is to gather the information about some subject. After that, it is required to analyze that information using scientific method with the intention of increase the stock of knowledge. Why we are analyzing this information? What is the reason behind it? The intention or the reason behind it is to increase the stock of knowledge. Okay, so this is the very good definition of research. Research is the process of gathering information about some subject, analyze them using the scientific method with the intention of increase the stock of knowledge. Now, what is the meaning of scientific method? What scientific method means? The scientific method is a set of basic rules for a scientist to develop a controlled experiment in order to test and observe events, so that to reach conclusions and report those conclusions that in case of validity are then applied to science. Okay, so when these scientific methods are applied for analyzing the gathered information in order to increase the stock of knowledge, that process is called as a research. Now there are different types of research. Okay, different types of research is there. Yeah. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So first is descriptive research versus analytical research, applied research versus fundamental research, quantitative research versus qualitative research, conceptual research versus experimental or empirical research. Now, what is descriptive research? Descriptive research includes surveys and fact-finding inquiries of different kinds, right? In descriptive research, the surveys and fact-finding inquiries of different kinds are involved. The major purpose of descriptive research is description of the state of affairs as it exists at present, right? So what is the major purpose of descriptive research? The major purpose of descriptive research is description of the state of affairs as it exists at present. This approach is suitable for particularly social science and business and management studies for descriptive research studies. The main characteristics of this method is that the researcher has no control over the variables. Okay, the researcher can only report what has happened or what is happening, right? It has no control over the variables. He or she can only report what has happened or what is happening. So that is only he can do in this descriptive kind of research. The most research projects of this nature are like used for descriptive studies, in which the researcher seeks to measure factors like frequency of shopping, brand preference of people, most popular media program, etc. Okay, so survey kind of things means the researcher basically seeks to measure the factors like frequency of shopping. Okay, how a particular customer is going for shopping, what is the frequency of shopping of that customer, then brand preference of people, then most media, the popular media program survey, like that is the TRP calculation and all. Okay, so this kind of research comes under the category of descriptive research. Okay, and survey methods of all kinds, whatever survey methods are there. So survey methods of all kinds fall under the descriptive research, including comparative and correlation techniques. Okay, so descriptive research is mostly based on the surveys. Okay, survey based, it is survey based. So whatever are the existing facts, on the basis of that, whenever some survey is conducted, so descriptive research is the outcome of the surveys. So those surveys are analyzed, and then some conclusion is drawn in the descriptive research, right? Whereas the analytical research is also survey based. Okay, it is also survey based, but there is a critical evaluation of the material. Whatever survey has been done, that survey is critically evaluated by systematic techniques, by analyzing the facts, Okay, so that is there in the analytical research. Some analytical tools are used. Some analytical tools are used for analyzing, for evaluating the facts which has found in the survey. So that is the difference between analytical and descriptive research. But both the kind of research, they are based on the surveys on particular domain. Okay, so whenever the survey is conducted on particular domain and the facts are collected, information is collected, okay, from that survey, that information is analyzed, okay, in both the cases. But in analytical research, it is critically evaluated or by using some analytical tools, okay, and then the appropriate decisions are taken from this thing, okay, from the analytical research. Then second kind of research is your applied research versus fundamental research. Okay, research can either be applied research or fundamental research, right? It can be either applied or fundamental. The main target of applied research is to find a solution for an immediate problem facing a society or an individual. Okay, industry, suppose some people are facing problem in the society or industry are facing problem. Okay, to find the immediate solution to that problem, applied research is used, right? So where the applied research used? Applied research is used to find a solution for an immediate problem. Immediate problem, whenever the people, they are facing some problem in the society or industry also facing some problem or business organizations are facing problem. Okay, to solve these problems immediately, to find the solution of this problem immediately, applied research is used, right? Whereas fundamental, which is also called as pure research, on the other hand, fundamental or pure research is mainly concerned with generalization and concentrates on the formation of the theory. That is the difference between applied research and fundamental research. Fundamental research, which is also called pure research, okay, is mainly concerned with generalization and concentrates on the formation of the theory. Isn't it? Gathering knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Okay, gathering knowledge for the sake of knowledge is called as pure research or basic research or fundamental research. Whenever the researcher is gathering knowledge for sake of knowledge, right? Whenever the researcher is gathering information, gathering knowledge for the sake of knowledge, this process is called the pure research or basic research or fundamental research. Now, what are the examples of fundamental research? Examples of fundamental research are research concerning some natural phenomena related to pure mathematics. Okay, then research studies aimed at studying the making generalizations about human behavior. If someone is doing research on the human behavior, okay, that is the fundamental research. Or some mathematical, research we are carrying out, okay, that is also the fundamental research. Okay, some lemmas are there, some theorems are there. On the basis of the existing lemmas and theorem, if some new lemma or theorems are designed or proposed, that is called as the fundamental research. Example of the fundamental research. So in fundamental research, the researcher is gathering knowledge for sake of knowledge, right? And it is mainly concerned with the generalizations. It concerns with the generalizations and it concentrates on the formation of a theory. It always concentrates on the theory formation. It is based on some theory. It is more or less theoretical. So fundamental research is more or less theoretical kind of research. Whereas in applied research, the researcher is interested in to provide the solution for the immediate problems of the society of the industry, of the business organizations. Okay, that is the applied research. In applied research, the researcher will not utilize his time for proving some theorems or proving some, putting some theory or something like that. No, he is interested in to provide direct solution to the problem. Whereas in fundamental research, more theoretical work will be involved. Okay, it is more theoretical, proving some theorems or formulating the new theorem from the existing theorem, or putting some theory or theoretical concepts like that. So that is the kind of fundamental research. Okay. Now, applied research always concentrates the researcher when he is pursuing the applied research. He or she concentrates on discovering a solution for some pressing practical problem that I told you. Whereas fundamental research is focused towards formation of theories that may have a broad base of applications either at present or for future, which adds more material to the already existing organized body of the scientific knowledge. Okay, fundamental research is also required because it may solve the potential kind of problems in future, but at present it cannot be used for solving the problems, right? Then the next type of research is quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative research. Quantitative means where the quantity is there. Qualitative means quality is there. So what is the meaning of quantitative research? Quantitative research is applicable to phenomenon that can be expressed in terms of quantity, right? Where the quantitative research is used, where it is applicable, quantitative research is applicable to phenomena that can be expressed in terms of quantity. Okay, while qualitative research is concerned with qualitative phenomena. Okay, so wherever the quantity, okay, wherever the phenomena can be expressed in terms of quantity, quantitative research is used. It will come into picture. And wherever the phenomena can be expressed in terms of quality, then we go for the qualitative research. Is that clear? Now, for instance, I will give the example. For instance, when we are interested in investigating the reason for human behavior, okay, if the researcher is interested to investigate the reasons for human behavior, that means why people think or do certain things, okay, or whenever we are interested to find out the human psychology, do the research on human psychology, okay, then we quite often talk of motivation research. Okay, this is the example of qualitative research. Qualitative. So whenever the researcher is carrying out the research on the human behavior kind of things, it's an example of qualitative research. It is not a quantitative, it is a qualitative. Okay, so qualitative research is especially important in the behavioral sciences, where the aim is to discover the underlying motives of the human behavior. Fine. So there are two kinds of research. One is quantitative research and another is qualitative. So in quantitative research, whenever the phenomena can be expressed in terms of quantity, that is the quantitative research. And on the other hand, whenever the phenomena can be expressed in terms of quality, then it's a qualitative research. Fine. Then the next category is conceptual research and experimental, which is also called as the empirical research. So what is conceptual research? Conceptual research is that which is related to some abstract idea or theory. Conceptual research is that related to some abstract idea or theory. It is generally used by philosophers and thinkers to develop some new concepts or to reinterpret existing ones. That is called the conceptual research. Okay. So what is conceptual research? Conceptual research is that which is related to some abstract idea or theory. Okay, abstract idea or abstract theory, and it is generally used by the philosophers, the people those who are philosophers, and they come up with some abstract idea and the abstract theory, that is called as the conceptual research. Okay, the scientist who has invented the earth is circular or something like that. Oh, see, he came up with some abstract idea or theory. It's a conceptual research. Okay, so it is used by philosophers and thinkers to develop new concepts or to reinterpret the existing ones. On the other hand, the experimental, which is also called as the empirical research, experimental or empirical research, which relies on the experiment or the observation. Okay, experiment or observation alone. So this empirical or experimental research is totally based on the experiments or the observations, right? And the conceptual research is based on some abstract idea or theory. So here in experimental research, whatever true observations are taken, whatever experiments are conducted, so whatever outcomes are there from the experiments, on the basis of that, the conclusions are drawn in experimental or empirical research. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just a minute. System is hanged. Okay. Okay. Fine. Now, the empirical research or experimental research is database research. It is database. It is based on some data. Okay, it is database research coming up with conclusions which are capable of being verified by observation or experiment. Okay, the conceptual research is based on the idea, abstract idea or theory, whereas the experimental research or empirical research is based on the data. It is a database research. Okay, coming up with conclusions which are capable of being verified by observation or experiment. In such a research, it is necessary to get facts firsthand at their source. Okay, and actively to go about doing certain things to stimulate the production of desired information. In such a research, the researcher must first provide himself with a working hypothesis or guess as to probable results. He then works to get enough facts or data to prove or disprove the hypothesis. Then he tries to prove this hypothesis. Okay, he set up some experimental designs which he thinks it will manipulate the persons or the materials concerned so as to bring forth the desired information leading to the hypothesis. Such research is thus characterized by the experimenter's control over the variables under study and is deliberate manipulation of one of them to study its effects. Empirical research is appropriate when proof is sought that certain variables affect other variables in some way. Okay, evidence gathered through experiments or empirical studies is today considered to be the most powerful support possible for a given hypothesis. Fine. So these are the four major categories we have discussed: descriptive research versus analytical research, applied research versus fundamental research, quantitative versus qualitative, conceptual versus experimental. Now, what is the significance of research? Okay, let us see what is the significance of research and what are the different perspectives looking at the research. Now, this can be understood keeping in view the following points from the different person's perspective. Okay, अलग अलग लोगों के रिसर्च के बारे में अलग अलग व्यूज होते हैं. People have different perspective towards the research. Okay, now to those students who are in writing the masters और PhD thesis, ME MTech का thesis लिख रहे हैं या कर रहे हैं या PhD कर रहे हैं, ऐसे लोगों के लिए रिसर्च क्या है? ओके, रिसर्च में मीन करियरिज्म और a way to attain a high position in the social structure. This is today's fact कि भाई हम ME हो जाएंगे, हमें असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर का जॉब मिल जाएगा, अगर PhD होते हैं तो एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर या प्रोफेसर मिल जाएगा. सो जस्ट फॉर गेटिंग द हायर पोस्ट, okay, to get them to improve the career, they look at the research. Okay, the professionals in research methodology, research may mean a source of livelihood. जो लोग रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी में प्रोफेशनल लोग हैं, उसमें ही काम करते हैं, रिसर्चर्स होते हैं, ओके, दे फॉर देम research may mean a source of livelihood. Okay, to the philosophers and thinkers, research may mean the outlet for new ideas and insights. To literally men and women, research may mean the development of new styles and creative works. To analysts and intellectuals, research may mean the generalizations of new theories. See how people have different perspectives towards the research. Okay, so different people will have different perceptions about the research, which I have mentioned in this particular slide. Now coming to the research methodology. Till now we have discussed the basic concepts of research, what research is, okay, what are the types of research, and different perspectives towards the research. This thing we have discussed so far. Now let us move on the research methodology, right? So what research methodology means? Research methodology is a way to systematically solve the research problems. Okay, what it is? It is a way to systematically solve the research problem. It may be understood as a science of studying how research is done scientifically. Okay, it may be understood as a science of studying how research is done scientifically. This is called as research methodology. Okay, रिसर्च प्रॉब्लम को सिस्टमैटिकली सॉल्व करने का जो तरीका होता है उसे कहते हैं रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी. ओके, इट मे बी अंडरस्टूड एज साइंस ऑफ स्टडिंग हाउ रिसर्च इज डन साइंटिफिकली. इन इट we formulate the various steps that are to be adopted by a researcher in studying his research problem along with the logic behind them. It is necessary for the researcher to know not only the research methods or techniques but also the methodology. So this is the meaning of research methodology. So in research methodology, what is important? How the research is to be carried out, how the research problem has to be solved systematically. That study is called as the research methodology. Now, how to start with? How to start research? Now, many people have confusion in their mind that where from we should start the research. Research हम लोग start कैसे तो करेंगे तो कहाँ से करेंगे? So there are some कुछ ऐसे थंब रूल टाइप कुछ ऐसे ये है ट्रिक्स है जो हम लोग फॉलो कर सकते हैं रिसर्च करने के लिए. सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू हैव टू चूज द रिसर्च थीम. द फर्स्ट थिंग इज दैट यू हैव टू चूज द रिसर्च थीम. द रिसर्चर, इफ यू वांट टू बी अ रिसर्चर, देन यू विल हैव टू फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल चूज द रिसर्च थीम. ओके, isn't it? The choice can be made looking for relevant, means scientific, social, technological, whatever, which kind of research it is, whether the research is scientific or whether the research is social kind of research or it's technological research. Okay, that is the relevance of that research. Then adequate to those employed at university or institute as a research lab. Okay, whatever the adequate facilities are available to them or not. Okay, research labs and material and everything is available or not. Okay, then check for time and feasibility to develop the research. Check the time and feasibility to develop the research, and also you will have to define the scope of the research. Okay, It is not necessary to solve it all. It is better to limit them to be too broad. Okay, so we have to somewhere define the scope of the research problem. Then objective. Okay, objectives, very important thing, objectives, right? So objectives of the research has to be defined very precisely or clearly. Otherwise, the research will be, I mean, it will mislead, or it will be diverted. The researcher will not reach to the desired solution or desired this thing. Okay, so the objectives of research should be defined with we have to define objectives very clearly. Now, the purpose of the research is to discover answers to the questions through application of the purpose of research is to discover answers to questions through the application of scientific procedures. The main aim of research is to find the truth which is hidden and which has not been discovered as yet. Right? Research objectives fall into the following broad groupings. Okay, the research objectives they fall into various categories or groups. Okay, first is to gain familiarity with the phenomena or to achieve new insights into it. It is also known as the exploratory or formulatory research studies. Second is to determine the frequency with which something occurs or with which it is associated with something else. Third is to test a hypothesis of a causal relationship between variables. Okay, now why do people aspire for research? This is a very important point or important question. Why people aspire for research? What makes them undertake research? Okay, people, why they aspire for research? लोगों को रिसर्च क्यों करते हैं? लोग रिसर्च करने की इच्छा क्यों रखते हैं? Why they go for research? What makes them undertake the research? ऐसा क्या है कि वो रिसर्च करने के लिए शुरू करते हैं? This motivation is of the fundamental importance. The possible motives for doing research may be either one of the following, like aspire to get a research degree along with the career benefits, aspire to take up the challenge in solving the unsolved problems, desire to get intellectual joy of doing a creative work, aspire to do research to serve for the society, seek to get recognition and respect, and many others. Okay, many more are the some other factors such as directives from the government, employment conditions, curiosity about new things, social thinking and awakening, okay, and so other things. So research objectives can be defined with a literature review. Okay, research objectives you can define with a literature review, which is one of the important aspect of the research, literature review. Okay, should be an action. Okay, the objective should be an action that addresses some gap or existing problem. Must be coupled with a well-defined hypothesis. Right? Now, suppose for a particular, I think, a domain, if various scientists or various researchers have carried out some research and they have presented some papers on that, we can read all the papers and we can study them, we can compare the work which they have done, what are their pros and cons, and after reading all these research papers, if we can find out the gap, okay, if some gap is there, how can we address that gap? This can be a new research problem. Okay, so must be coupled with a well-defined hypothesis. Now, while defining the objectives of the research, okay, it should not be like a proposal. If your objectives are like a proposal, then that will be a very big kind of research. Okay, if the objectives of research are to propose something, So it will be very weak kind of research. है ना, जो आपके जो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स होते हैं रिसर्च के वो प्रपोजल टाइप नहीं होना चाहिए, अदरवाइज दैट विल बी अ वेरी वीक काइंड ऑफ रिसर्च. ओके, so the researcher has to initiate the problem in a very precise way, explain why the problem is important given in the literature review, and make sure the premises are sound. Okay, so in the literature, in the the research methodology, some terminology is there like hypotheses, premises, and all. Okay, so if your premises are sound, then only you can define the problem statement very precisely and very correctly. So some examples of weak research problem are: this project proposes the use of optimization methods for vehicle route problem. It's a very this thing. The main objective is to develop neural network algorithms for sentiment analysis in text. It is hard to grasp the actual problem to be addressed. It is not clear what exactly is the research question and its importance in those objectives. If you see these two objectives, then it is little bit inadequate. Okay, we are not able to understand or grasp actual problem to be addressed. Okay, and neither it is clear what exactly is the research question and its importance in those objectives. So this thing is it should be very clear. Good objectives are driven by good research hypothesis. What hypothesis means? Hypothesis means a claim that will be tested to be true or false. The research project must investigate the claim in order to confirm or falsity the claim. Defining a sound hypothesis is what differentiates research from a technical work. Then coming to the next important process, that is literature review. Okay, literature review. When you are developing some project or doing some research, then the the most important step is the literature review. Okay, the researcher must keep reading throughout the research projects. It is okay to start with books and surveys. After you become master the main techniques, then search for relevant work on good repositories, read papers in critical way. Okay, repositories are available. You can use the Google Scholar or Scopus. Okay, Web of Science kind of repositories are available. Scholar repositories are there, Scopus repositories are there, and Web of Science repositories are there. From where you can get the enormous information, enormous papers or research material from where you can start the literature review. Okay. Now, what is literature review basically? Once the problem is formulated, okay, when the researcher formulates the problem, okay, so once the problem is formulated, the researcher should undertake extensive literature review connected with the problem, right? So once the problem is formulated, when the problem statement or problem is formulated, the researcher should undertake the extensive literature review connected with the problem. Now, why the literature review is important? Why it is required? It assists in refining the statement of the problem. Okay, for strengthening the argument of the selection of the research topic or the justification. It helps to get familiar with various types of methodology that might be used in the study or the design. Okay, in many times, whenever you are doing research, your guide, your supervisor always asks you to carry out the rigorous literature review. Okay, then why this literature review is required? Okay, the reasons are shown here. There are three major reasons. So first is the literature review assists the researcher in refining the statement of the problem. So from refinement of the problem statement, literature review helps us. Okay, strengthening the argument of the selection of the research topic. Okay, strengthening the argument of the selection of the research topic. Justification. So for strengthening of the research topic also, argument of the selection is also, this literature review plays a very important role. It helps to get familiar with various types of methodology that might be used in the study. Okay, so because of these results, literature review is very important. Okay, so if more rigorous literature review is done, more precise your research problem statement, and your research will lead to more desired kind of outcomes. If you are not doing the literature review rigorously, then your research may not be having that much quality. ओके, तो अगर आपको अच्छा रिसर्च करना है, ओके, तो आपको क्या करना होगा, आपको रिगरस लिटरेचर रिव्यू करना पड़ेगा. Okay, and I have shown you the reasons why the literature review is important. Okay, fine. So literature review is a very important step in any research research process. Otherwise, even without literature review, the research cannot be done. Then what the literature review means? Questions that can be answered by a review of literature. What are the major issues and debate about the research problem? Okay, are there any gaps in the knowledge of the subject? How can I bridge the gap? Whether the research question already has been answered by someone else. What is the chronology of the development of the knowledge about my research problem? What are the key theories, concepts, and ideas known about the subject? What directions or the methodologies are indicated by the work of other researchers? Okay, see, sometimes some idea comes into our mind, okay, and we find that this idea is very novel and we can do research on that idea, but it is not necessary. Whatever we think, many people are also thinking in the same direction. Okay, and it may happen that already someone has done some research on that idea and presented some papers. जो हमको नॉवेल लगता है, जो नया लगता है, किसी ने पहले ही कुछ किया रहता है उसके ऊपर रिसर्च, इसलिए हमको क्या करना होता है कि वो we have to do the literature review whether, okay, the research question which we are having in your mind already has been answered by someone else. Okay, if my research question or my research problem is exactly similar to that, or some points are similar, some points are not similar, so that we have to find out, and that is done only with the help of literature review. Then what is the chronology of the development of the knowledge about my research problem? What are the key theories, concepts, and ideas known about the subject? What directions or what methodology are indicated by the work of the other researcher, and some other things. Okay, so by carrying out the literature review, the researcher comes to know the real things about the research problem, and then his research will confine or it will go in the proper direction. Otherwise, the research will not lead to the proper direction. So literature review is very important thing. Now, sources of the literature. अभी आप बोलेंगे हमको literature कहाँ से मिलेगा? What are the sources of the literature? First is the books. You can read the material from the textbooks, monographs, or edited collections. ऐसा नहीं कि हर वक्त हम लोग research paper से ही लेंगे, ऐसा नहीं. Books are also used for the getting the literature. Books, the primary source is books. Then journal articles. Another important and most important is the journals. There are very journals के जो papers होते हैं, articles, वो हमारा major source of literature है. There are academic journals, conference proceedings, okay. Then indexing and abstracting journal search engines are there, like Google Scholar is there, PubMed is there, okay. Then past dissertations, okay, जो already जिन्होंने research किया है, PhD हो गया है या MTech, उनके डिसर्टेशन भी हमको मिल सकते हैं. Vital statistics, sensors, government records, surveillance systems, surveys. Okay, we can get the literature from these statistics also. The international organization documents like WHO, UNICEF, in case of the medical science and all. Then media is also there, newspaper, magazines, and internet. So these are some prominent sources of the literature, where from you can acquire the literature, you can get the literature, and then you can proceed further for the literature review. तो रिव्यू करने के लिए हमको लिटरेचर चाहिए ना, तो ये सारे एवेन्यूज है उसके लिए. These are the sources. Okay, but the major source is the we feel that it is the journal articles, journal papers. Okay, reputed journals which has high impact factor and which are having good indexing. Google means Scopus or SCI indexed or reputed journals. Okay, so those journals we have to get, and from that the relevant papers has to be taken for the literature review. So the journal papers is the major source of our literature, getting the literature, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, how to evaluate your research? Okay. How to evaluate your research? Define as soon as possible how to measure your results in order to understand how close you are to the main objective. Okay. Since usually 90% of outcomes are actually failures, we have to make sure we are evaluating correctly the results since the beginning. Then understand all research has limitations and weak points. Okay, we have to understand that all research has some limitations after all, and there are some weak points also. Okay, example is little innovation, incremental contribution, results marginally different from state of the art, application is restricted, it is not scalable, etc. But a negative result is also good if the method was correct. If your method is correct, then negative result is also good. To be exposed to the research ideas. Okay, the exposition makes it easier to define or redefine the objectives and find the ideas. Discuss your work with other colleagues and researchers. Frequently read papers, at least one paper in 1 month. So at least one monthly, you have to read the papers, research papers. It is the responsibility of the student or the researcher to bring ideas and possibilities to discuss with the supervisor or the guide. Then follow important researchers on social media like Twitter, ResearchGates, and all these social media platforms are also available for the researchers to exchange their knowledge and ideas. So from ResearchGates and Twitter also, you can exchange the research ideas. Then product or implementation. Whether your research will lead to a product or it will be the implementation of something. So it can be innovative or not. If lacking a hypothesis, then it is not innovative. When innovative, it is usually exploratory. If it is a system or reproduction, can be reported as a technical report. Acceptable for undergraduate final year project like that, your BE project or something like that. Okay. Now, what is the exploratory? Exploratory kind of research is acceptable to not compare with previous work. Exploratory kind of research is not acceptable to compare with the previous work. In many research, we are comparing our work with the previous work. कि भाई इन लोगों ने ये किया था, इन लोगों ने ये टेक्निक यूज किया था, हम लोगों ने ये किया है, our research, our method, है ना, and how our method is superior to the existing methods. We try to do that, but in exploratory research, it is not acceptable. Okay, the example of exploratory research is your biological computer that solves the problem of traveling salesman and all these things. Traveling salesman problem. Something different. Now, it proposes a different approach. The exploratory research proposes different approach to some problem or a different implementation or application. It requires literature review and qualitative comparison. Okay, can be a different approach, not necessarily better. It is usually in problems that are well studied but not sufficiently, can result in case studies like your deep learning and all these things. It's a valid propose something different when there is a scare data or time use cases. A well-defined case study can be a good way to start, but make sure premises are convincing. There is some hypothesis. Okay, something supposedly better. A problem that is well studied. There is available data and papers reporting results on those well-known data sets. Need to follow protocols, evaluation measures that are previously defined by the literature. When there are already many solutions, you must verify or you will justify why your approach is valid or better in some sense. Often results in an incremental contribution. Okay, like this traveling salesman problem, which is formulated in 1930, which is NP hard or this thing or brute force solution. Okay, in brute force solution, the complexity is O of n factorial. Dynamic programming algorithms, the complexity is O of n squared 2 raised to power n, and selling on eBay, the complexity is O of n, O of 1, like that. So complexity is different in three approaches. Then example in image denoising, this is noisy method, state of the art, and this is our method. So we are comparing with the previous this thing examples in image processing. See, in research which we are conducting, we are proposing a new, novel algorithm or novel technique to solve or to address the research gap. And we compare our work with the previous work. We take as a benchmark. So benchmarking is there. Okay. And we try to show that how our method or how our results or our this thing research is better than the previous results. Okay, so for that we take the some benchmarking हम लोग यूज करते हैं कि भाई फॉर पर्टिकुलर प्रॉब्लम इसके पहले कौन कौन सा रिसर्च हुआ है, उन लोगों ने क्या क्या टेक्निक यूज किए थे और अभी हम लोग कौन सा टेक्निक यूज कर रहे हैं, तो हमारा जो रिजल्ट है, हमारे जो रिजल्ट्स है, आउटकम है, उनसे कैसे बेटर है, हम लोग उसको ग्राफिकल फॉर्म में प्रेजेंट करते हैं, जैसे यहाँ पे दिया है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ग्राफ्स. ओके, सो by showing the result in the graphical form, we are showing the comparisons, and in that we try to show that how our research is better than the existing research. So drawing the graphs and all these things, comparative is also one of the this thing way of using this thing. Now I will not go through this because we have some limited time. Otherwise, I will have to deliver the what is NP and what is PA, NP, all these things. So that I will skip just now. I will go to the computer science research. Basically, the research which come into the computer science field is of three types: theoretical research, empirical research, and exploratory research. Okay. Yeah, and the research papers. Now, many researchers, they have a lot of, questions in their mind. They always, come across the word scopus. कि भाई scopus paper में चाहिए हमारा index, scopus index journal में हमारा paper चाहिए, ये चाहिए, वो चाहिए. So they have a lot of questions in their mind. Okay, what is the scopus index journal? What scopus is? So Scopus is an indexing database. Okay, what Scopus is? Scopus is an indexing database. The Scopus is the number one abstract and citation database of peer-reviewed journals. Scopus क्या है? Scopus is the number one abstract and citation database of peer-reviewed journals. जो आपके peer-reviewed journals होते हैं, where the review is done by the various reviewers. Okay, so जो peer-reviewed जो journals होते हैं, उनका जो citation का जो database है और abstract का database है, उसे हम कहते हैं Scopus. So Scopus is the number one. उसमें नंबर वन वाला जर्नल जो है वो है Scopus, which contains more than 70 million items like scientific articles, conference proceedings, book chapters, lecture notes, and books. Okay, so it is the number one journal. Scopus is the number one abstract and citation database, of the peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals का वो database है Scopus, जिसमें 70 million items है, like scientific articles, conference proceedings, book chapters, lecture notes, and books. So, in short, Scopus is an indexing database. What Scopus is? It's an indexing database. It's a database only. Okay, like we have a database in our DBMS, you have studied database. No, so like that, it's an indexing database. Scopus means, okay, in which it has millions of scientific articles, conference proceedings, book chapters, lecture notes, and books. Right? So all are indexed in this particular indexing database. Now, how to check whether any particular journal is Scopus indexed or not? अब आपके मन में ये भी क्वेश्चन होता है कि भाई XYZ जो जर्नल है वो जर्नल Scopus indexed है कि नहीं है, ये हम लोग कैसे देख सकते हैं? उसके लिए क्या है कि you have to visit the website that scopus.com/sources. Okay, so you go to that website scopus.com/sources and it will guide you to their search page. When you type this URL on the web browser scopus.com/sources, then it will guide you to their search page. उनके search page पे आपको जाएंगे. You will go to the search page of the Scopus. Then there you have to choose the title of the paper, publisher और ISSN number. अगर आपको टाइटल पता है या आपको पब्लिशर का नाम पता है, वो भी पता नहीं है, तो एटलीस्ट आपको अगर ISSN नंबर पता है आपके जर्नल का, वो आप वहां डाल दीजिए and then you can search for it. Okay, then enter the journal details in the search bar to have access to their database. Okay, now then you will come to know if the journal is Scopus index, definitely it will appear there. अगर वो Scopus index जर्नल अगर होगा तो उनके डेटाबेस में वो जर्नल का पूरा आपको डिटेल्स आपको मिल जाएगा. अदरवाइज यू विल नॉट गेट द डिटेल्स ऑफ द जर्नल. अगर कोई जर्नल अगर Scopus इंडेक्स नहीं है तो आप उसको अगर सर्च करोगे तो आपको वो नहीं मिलेगा. एज ए रिसर्चर you would want to submit a research article someday, and for that you would have to select a journal that fits your areas of research, as well as finding out if it is indexed in a key abstract indexing database such as ISI, SCI, SCIE, Scopus or ESCI and all these things. Okay, so identifying the journal of your choice and its type of indexing could be a core in itself. You can always hire extra help to do it for you. Okay, here are some ways you can do yourself and save your money. Okay, it is known to be one of the top abstract and citation database of PVPPCoE. That is already we have discussed. Now to verify this thing, that also we have discussed. Now SCI Mago rank journals. The SCI Mago Journals and Country Rank is a public site to identify the scientific ranking of the journals and country. The ranking system is powered by Scopus and it is used to analyze and understand the quality of journals. To verify your journal of interest, and you would have to, for that you will have to visit to SCI Mago Journal and Country Rank and then you'll redirect to its search page. Okay, and then again do the same thing, put the details of the paper, and then it will show whether that is SCI Mago or not. So this way you can find out whether your journal is SCI indexed or whether it is Scopused or whether it is SCI Mago or whatever it is. So a lot of these things are available for that to check the quality of your this thing journal. Okay. So dear students, have you, dear participants, have you understood this? Whatever we have discussed so far?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
Definitely.
I think we shall conclude our discussion.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so over to Gahanvir sir.
Yes. Uh, so, dear participants, we were very lucky that such a resource person we were having, who has not only elaborated right from the types of research to how to start research regarding how to frame the objective, to literature review, and how to show the research result using the graphical format. Sir, if you could allow, I have one question regarding one point that you have elaborated. That was regarding weak research. So,
Yeah,
so if you could throw more light on how to write the correct objectives, if you could spend few minutes on that.
sure, sir, sure.
Yes.
Okay. So correct objectives we can define means in many research. I mean,
Sir, you have shown what was wrong, or how the objectives were incorrect.
yes, yes,
That leads to weak research. So
right,
now
right,
my
right.
question is, what is the remedy wherein we will be able to write the objectives correctly? If you could,
Yeah,
yes,
actually, in that particular slide, I had told that I discussed that key in many of the research problems, it is simply the objectives are written that to do these,
yes,
and so
yes,
sometimes I mean, so many of the times the problem statement is not precise,
yes,
it is not adequate. So we are not able to understand what exact research problem is and how to address with that problem. So simply mentioning the this thing, because in simple cases, if it is not, I mean, it means it is, if it is not a research based project, to mention the proposal, it's just like a proposal only. Okay,
yes,
to
yes,
I mean, many times we write the objectives like that to use
yes,
the machine learning algorithms to improve
yes.
this. So this kind of problem statements are leading to the weak research. So your problem statement should be very precise. It should address what the research problem is, and it should be based on some facts from the literature review.
Okay, sir.
So that will
Okay.
lead to the good research. That what I wanted to tell you, sir. Hmm?
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
So
Thank you, sir.
any other participant has any
Okay, sir.
question? So thanks a lot, sir, for
Yes,
taking
sir.
out.
Welcome, welcome,
Yeah,
sir.
yes.
Always welcome.
So thanks a lot for taking your precious time and
Yes.
providing us this useful information, which will lead us to towards more fruitful research-oriented achievements from the departmental and student point of view.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.